It's very helpful to set the record straight, as my friend from Tennessee talked about earlier. And I thought that would be highly appropriate given some of the lighthearted and sometimes mean-spirited barbs that have been sent the way of former governor, vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin. So I just wanted to set the record straight, Mr. Speaker, so that people understand and the congressional record will properly reflect just how prescient that Sarah Palin has been in the past. We're going back 5.5 years. But this was an interview that Charles Gibson did that gave rise to a Saturday Night Live skit. But this was Charles Gibson, quoting verbatim from him and then Sarah Palin. Let me ask you about specific national security situations. Let's start, because we are near Russia, let's start with Russia and Georgia. The administration has said we've got to maintain the territorial integrity of Georgia. Do you believe the United States should try to restore Georgian sovereignty over South Ossetia and Abkhazia? Sarah Palin, first off, we're going to continue good relations with Saakashvili there. I was able to speak with him the other day and giving him my commitment as John McCain's running mate that we will be committed to Georgia. And we've got to keep an eye on Russia. For Russia to have exerted such pressure in terms of invading a smaller democratic country unprovoked is unacceptable. And we have to keep, Gibson interrupted and said, you believe unprovoked? Palin, I do believe unprovoked. And we've got to keep our eyes on Russia under the leadership there. Gibson, what insight into Russian action, particularly in the last couple of weeks, does the proximity of this state give you? And this is the operative line here. Sarah Palin said, quote, they're our next door neighbors, and you can see Russia from land here in Alaska. Gibson, you're in favor of putting Georgia and Ukraine into NATO, and the interview goes on. But that's what Sarah Palin said. They're our next-door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska. And that should be relevant to people. If you're living next door on 1 acre of land, and the people that own the acre next to you have been guilty in the past of breaking into other neighbors' sheds and buildings, then certainly that's something that you ought to be watching more closely than people on the other side of the town that don't live next door. I mean, proximity can be an important matter. But here is the text of what Saturday Night Live did on September 13, 2008. And we know that Saturday Night Live has altered sketches that in the past, at least once, I recall seeing, where they were afraid it might make President Obama look bad, and they certainly didn't want to do that. Okay to take shots at Republicans, but they certainly didn't want to be fair and hit back at President Obama the same way. And even as Lorne Michaels, comic genius that he is, has indicated, yeah, they do lean left there at Saturday Night Live. This was a sketch involving Tina Fey as Sarah Palin, Amy Poehler as Hillary Clinton. They were appearing together in the sketch, and these quotes are verbatim from the sketch. Tina Fey, as Sarah Palin, says, quote, but tonight we're crossing party lines to address the now very ugly role that sexism is playing in the campaign, unquote. Then Amy Poehler, as Hillary Clinton, quote, an issue which I am frankly surprised to hear people suddenly care about, unquote. Tina Fey is Palin. You know, Hillary and I don't agree on everything. Polar is Clinton. Says anything. I believe that diplomacy should be the cornerstone of any foreign policy. Then Tina Fey, acting as Sarah Palin, said, and I can see Russia from my house. So that is where the line came from. There's many in the United States that actually believe Sarah Palin said, and I can see Russia from my house. It was a very clever sketch. It was funny. I laughed when I saw it. But I also knew how intelligent and what a great leader and governor Sarah Palin had been and what a great leader she is. But we can all laugh at ourselves. I just didn't realize that that was going to take off. And by the writers at Saturday Night Live giving Hillary Clinton a line that said anything, I believe that diplomacy should be the cornerstone of any foreign policy, sounding like a diplomat or a politician, and then trying to make Sarah Palin sound very much less so.